I need your help. I'm in a difficult situation and I need money urgently. Please, any amount would help so much. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't important.
Shem lam ding dong, calica, boom shakalaka, wiki wiki woo, zippity doo dah, flippity flop, dumpy doo hard.
Oh, look! Woo! Are you all right down there?
In the shadow of doom, the shepherd wears a tailored shroud, feeding on the whispers of the broken crowd. The scripture bent like a rusty blade, a holy heister, celestial trade, exchange a widow's might for a golden dream, while the architect of greed plots a hollow scheme. Plant the seed in the scorched earth, by your blessing prove your worth. The altar is a counting board, the merchant king has replaced the Lord. Currency of the soul, minted in lies, scaling the mountain where the spirit dies. Prosperity's gospel, a famine of grace, spitting in the martyr's haggard face. The heaven you bought is a basement in hell. Ring the golden steeple like a funeral bell. The needle's point, anointed in oil that the thieves appoint. They promise a mansion, they deliver a cage, a theater of vanity on a holy stage. Behold the jet engine prophet of light, stealing the sun to illuminate the night. The sick are cast out for their lack of belief, while the wolf wears the fleece of the chosen sheep. To the wood, kingdom of mercy, misunderstood, not found in the vault of the shimmering prize, but the reflection of love in the sufferer's eye. The cross is in silver, the crown is in gold. It's the story